shall feel the wrath of Hulkamania.
Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
John, help me if I mess up, but I forgot how to do this. It's been like 4 days since we've been on the air.
It's been so long, and I missed you on Friday, Brad.
Yeah, we had a little problem. We were off the air on Friday because, as a matter of fact, we weren't one of the people who was going to take the 4-day or the 4.5-day weekend, like I'll talk about in a minute. But the storm that rolled through early Friday morning knocked us off the air, and got it back on the air a little bit later, but after the show was over. So we missed Friday, okay? John, there's a reason I played the Hulk Hogan intro as one of the drops as far as part of our intro. Do you know why that was?
Is it because he is introducing a brand new set of testosterone replacement theory endorsed by your favorite U.S. Senate candidate? Is that the reason, Brad?
No.
It's not?
Do you not know what's going on?
What does he have to do? He's not endorsing testosterone replacement theory?
You don't know what I'm talking about then, do you?
No, what are you talking about?
He's come out with a new beer.
Are you talking about the article that was the top headline on my website over the weekend, Brad? I didn't hear about it, link to it, or talk about it. It's a brand new website I started here in October 2001, where I take headlines from all over the state of Missouri, Brad, that have to do with politics, and I put them on a website. No, I didn't see it. It was at the top of my website. Tell me about it.
See, this is how nice John is. He embarrasses me because he could easily say, oh, Brad, yeah, that's right. I featured that on my johncombest.com site over the weekend, but no, he's got to rub it in that I didn't peruse every single day of his website. And
you know what I say, Brad? Let me interrupt. I don't care if you go to my website or not, but this story rings a bell. Help me remember what I put at the top of my website this weekend, Brad.
About the fact that Joe Biden is the most, he's going to win debate contests around the world. He's going to be a world champion debater. And
he is. And the difference between him and us is he said over the weekend that he had a bad episode, which is something you and I have never had.
I have a bad episode about every hour. What are you talking about?
And this is episode number 151, Brad. Last week we had our 150th time we got on the air together.
And what's sort of interesting about this is that John and I have a numbering system that disagrees with we have 3 numbering systems for the show, which is sort of bizarre, but that's a whole nother
And Brad, do you think today we're doing 3 episodes, or do you think we're doing 1?
We're doing 3 blocks, John.
We're doing 3 segments, 3 blocks. You're right. So this is the 151st episode, Brad.
So,
congratulations.
So if you multiply that times 3, you should get the correct number of...
the number of blocks. You're right. And you just started using blocks within the last 2 weeks, so that's awesome. And I have adopted that from you, Brad. So thank you for that influence.
Well, I'm trying to be a little bit different. Okay, that is John Combest, Combest. He's the guy that puts together, like he just embarrassed me about, every single day since, October of 2021, he puts together a list of...
No, that October 2021 was 2.5 years ago, Brad. October 2001.
Excuse me. I have a Joe Biden moment. I'm sorry. He puts together this list, which he deems to be the top stories in the state of Missouri. And what we do is sometimes he has 30, 40, 50. Have you ever had 50 different stories up, John? Ever been a 50
I don't
day?
count. Yeah, remember, as I mentioned every few days, Brad, I'm interested in quality and not quantity. But yeah, I've certainly had several dozen as we get close to elections.
Okay. He puts that up on his website. We start off the show with this guy by the name of...
I'm Casey Kasem.
And what he does is...
Now on with the countdown.
And we start with...
In third place...
Listen to the music, Brad. Hey, you got trouble. Right there in Jeff City. With a capital T, and that rhymes with C, and that stands for complaint. That stands for complaint. That's right, Brad. The Office of Professional Registration, one of your favorite offices in Jeff City, is at the center of a registration controversy. Did you hear about this over the weekend, Brad? I know you read every line on my website. Did you hear about this controversy?
Well, I know all about it. They've lost my medical doctor registration. They've lost my JD, my law degree. They've missed my NP, my nurse practitioner degree. For some reason, they're all gone. I don't know why.
You know what you should do, though, Brad? You should do your gimmick where you get in the car and you drive down there because you have much better service if you drive down there. While you're down there, Brad, you might want to look at the complaint that was filed on June 27th. Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft has committed a heinous act against humanity with, I think, an emphasis on the anus. Brad, do you know what offense Jay Ashcroft has committed besides fashion crimes against the state of Missouri?
He didn't invite Bill Eigel to his barbecue over the weekend?
That's exactly what happened. And then the State Highway Patrol ended up investigating him. Thanks a lot, Cindy Cristofanelli. Boy, we're off to a great start this morning, Brad. Here's the point. Jay Ashcroft, you know how his shtick is. He's like, politicians create problems, engineers fix problems. You've heard him say that before, right?
Oh, yeah.
Turns out, according to the state of Missouri, Jay Ashcroft is not a certified, registered, licensed engineer, Brad. He has been exaggerating his status all along. Can you believe that?
Well, hold on a minute now. My dad was an engineer. My dad was a civil engineer. And I don't think you have to register with the state. I mean, do you have to register with the state?
Oh, Brad. Now, first of all, your dad was German, and you know how the Germans feel about everybody showing their papers, right, Brad?
Right.
But also, Jay Ashcroft, apparently you do need to register with the state. Apparently you will have paperwork. If you are a legitimate engineer, you will have paperwork with the state of Missouri. And according to this complaint, which is not apparently – this story, by the way, I should point out, is brought to us by Mark Maxwell. It was published on July 5th, so I had it up on the 6th, which was Saturday. And Mark Maxwell notes that says, 5 on your side was unable to confirm any link between the professional engineer who filed the complaint. So apparently a professional engineer actually filed paperwork with the state to complain about Jay Ashcroft's campaign commercials and statements, has no tie to a political campaign or one of the other governor campaigns, apparently. But so the gist of this, Brad, is that Jay Ashcroft says that he's an engineer, and he gives his explanation, which is that prior to entering public service, he did engineering work. He worked for an engineering company. He describes the work that he did, which are terms that I'm sure you would understand, Brad, that are way over my head, like ductility and durability and tensile strength and all these other technical terms. It looks like Jay Ashcroft worked as an engineer, but is not acknowledged or recognized by the state of Missouri as an engineer, which is a crime, Brad. You cannot say that you're an engineer. You can't go around pretending to be an engineer, saying you're an engineer, if you don't have your actual paperwork. Did you know that, Brad?
John, you've piqued my interest in this because of the fact that I know this from my father. My father was a degreed engineer, had a degree in civil engineering from Washington University, your alma mater as well, too. But when you say professional engineer, that is another certification, believe it or not, which is not necessarily required. And I think what this whole thing revolves around the fact is that if you are a professional engineer, and there's a test, you have to take a test. It's not the thing you just show up and one day you're called a PE. I believe, and I'm going to research this because you got my interest up in this. I believe then you have to register as an engineer. But if you are like for example, I should call my son. My one son is an electrical engineer from University of Missouri. He's got a double degree, a double major, double E electrical engineering and computer science. I don't think he's ever registered with the state. He's worked in Missouri.
Well, I hope he doesn't go around on campaign materials claiming to be an engineer, claiming that he's going to fix problems that politicians create.
But see, technically, I'm an engineer as well, too. I'm what they call a non-degreed engineer because the terms have changed in our industry. But if you are for example, legally, if you go to the FCC database and look up the information on this station, I am declared as the chief engineer, okay? But yet I don't register with the state. I don't have any registration with the state, except for my cars and things like that. See, once again, this is another gotcha thing. This, we're gonna get that Jay Ashcroft because he's not registered as an engineer. God, you know.
Now, you might not be registered by the state. I think we would all agree that you should be a ward of the state, Brad. I think we should all agree that you should. You shouldn't have left North County. You should have been at that home off Bell Fountain Road, the Habilitation Center. But Brad, to me, you were. It doesn't matter if you have a license or not. You are a real engineer. When the transmitter goes down, when we have horrible storms, you are out there. You are fixing the GUIDE wires. You're doing everything that you need to do. And yes, you were my chief engineer, Brad.
John, I've been to that rehabilitation home many, 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 many times. Do you know why?
Your mom worked there.
My mom worked there. Yes, she did. She worked there for several years. Yeah. And it's still there. It's a huge, huge piece of property. I mean,
they should turn it into, Steve Ellman was going to annex it and turn it into Klondike too. Did you hear that? Okay. It's not enough of a sinkhole. Brad, when we talk about things that are sinking, that leads us into reputational issues, maybe number 2.
Up a notch to number 2.
The brouhaha continues over Missouri's delegation to the Republican National Convention, Brad. 2, count them, 2 detailed pieces appeared over the weekend. You can find both of those at my website. One of them is by Rudy Keller of the Missouri Independent, and he did a piece, I believe it appeared on Friday, the day after July 4th, because there was a deadline for the Missouri Republican Party to certify delegates, to choose delegates that would go to Milwaukee. And then also, Brad, I would point to a piece that was written by Jim Hoft, at least the byline is by Jim Hoft, from Gateway Pundit fame. I have a link to that up today in the op-ed section of my website that gives a little bit more detail about the battle between the so-called establishment and the Missouri Republican Party and the Trump, the group calling itself Truly Grassroots for Trump. The initials are TGT, which, Brad, is also the ticker symbol for Target, as any white woman should be able to tell you. And the brouhaha, Brad, is that on Friday, the Missouri Republican Party decided that it would replace the Truly Grassroots for Trump delegates with its own people. And I believe they only kept 2 people from the Truly Grassroots for Trump group onto the national delegate list. And you can imagine how the, quote, grassroots, unquote, Truly Grassroots for Trump group feels about this. They detailed all their complaints, all their allegations in the Gateway Pundit piece, again, which I have a link up to today. They have audio and video. They have a whole bunch of affidavits signed by the original delegates. And Brad, this is getting super ugly. But the long and short of it is, Brad, it appears as though the Missouri Republican Party's hand-selected delegates will be indeed the ones going to Milwaukee to vote for Donald Trump as Missouri delegates.
John, can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
This is why people hate politics.
100%.
This is why people hate politics. Because it's like, okay, first off, it's like the delegates, what are they going to do? Are they going to decide that there's 10 different potential candidates for the President of the United States? No.
Right, they're all going to vote for Donald Trump, that's for sure.
It's like saying, okay, it's like somebody saying, hey, if we go to White Castle, do you think there might be some square hamburgers there? That's the only thing there. You know what I mean?
I thought of you this weekend, Brad, because I thought of, as I'm reading the Gateway Pundit piece yesterday, I'm thinking about the fact that, and now brace yourself, Brad, I'm going to refer to you as a normal person here, which doesn't happen often. But a normal person like Brad Hildebrand would look at an intra-party squabble and think, what are they possibly arguing about? Or in other words, Brad, why would the state party not just take the delegates that were duly elected at the state convention and allow them to go to Milwaukee? Even if they said, look, we disagree with some of the paperwork you submitted, or we don't think the credentialing process that we oversaw was actually correct, why wouldn't they say, hey, you guys, that team over there, so to speak, this faction over there, you guys got organized, you got your people together, you guys deserve to go to Milwaukee and have the honor of being delegates and voting for Donald Trump. What you just said, Brad, and here's why I thought of you, is because normal people would look at this situation and put their hands up, and if somebody was trying to recruit them to be a committee man or committee woman, they'd say, I don't know. Like, I hear there's a lot of fights and a lot of battles, and I just don't need that in my life.
And
You get it, Brad?
and squabbles over stupid stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
fights and battles in one thing if they're if there's something
Meaningful.
exactly. But it's just stupid stuff. I'm sorry. Oh man.
What I was looking for, Brad, and here's the strange thing. I was looking all weekend, ever since I read Rudy Keller's piece, which is really good in the Missouri Independent. Ever since I read that, I've been looking for the other side of this argument. Like, I'm looking for the argument from the state party folks of, okay, here's why it makes sense to replace that group of people with our own group of people. And I'm having a hard time finding that argument. If I was on the other side, like if I was on that side of this, I would be going on the Pete Mundos of the world or the Garrett Bowles of the world or fill in the blank. I would be going on some of these stations and at least telling my side of the story or being a little bit more clear about what was wrong with the credentialing process or why these people don't deserve to go. But man, I'm looking for the other side of this and I can't find it, Brad.
Well, I don't get it either. Okay, and last but not least,
The number one.
July 4th, Brad, a joyous time, celebrations marred by violence. Did you hear about all the shootings and all the violence that took place in Cottleville over the weekend, Brad?
I don't think it was Cottleville, John. I think it was downtown St. Louis.
No, I'm pretty sure it was Darden Prairie.
No, I don't think it was Darden Prairie either, John.
Oh,
It was...
you know what? It was St. Paul. You know that beautiful little enclave right there? It was St. Paul. They had a big fight at McGurk's. Did you see that? There were fireworks. There were shootings. Did you see that, Brad?
I don't think McGurk's is there anymore. And by the way, McGurk's is in O'Fallon, but that's a whole other story. At least it used to
whatever.
Be. Now,
but the point is, Brad, that's a good way to get back at me from the opening of the show. The point is, Brad, just kidding. There was not street savagery in St. Charles County, but there was a whole lot of it in downtown St. Louis. There were at least 7 shootings. At least 7 people were shot, Brad, not just by fireworks, but by gunfire. Of course, we know, thanks to Mayor Tashara Jones, that this is Missouri Republicans' fault. Because if it were not for abundant guns, if we just had some common sense gun control, the folks down in downtown in St. Louis would have just had a sweet, orderly, kind, fair, rollicking, safe, good time July 4th. But unfortunately, thanks to Missouri Republicans, there are a lot of guns out there which force young scholars to act out. I have an inspirational tourism video up today on Instagram, Brad. Tashara Jones wore a necklace that says "in charge," and she wants you to know that she's in charge. And I know that she's going to get this violence under control. She's going to get reelected next year. And I think in her second term, Brad, she's going to get a handle on all this violence.
John, there's all sorts of kinds of things I can say. And one of them is to the point where, well, I won't even go there. See, this is me where pushing, and by the way, the Westplex Chamber of Commerce is officially in business now. And
No way! Congratulations,
yes,
Brad.
and
Can you spend a few minutes in B block or C block, just a few minutes talking about it? Because if folks are listening for the first time, they probably haven't heard you talk about this before.
Well, yeah, because of the fact that the problem is that, you travel, you go somewhere. Matter of fact, I'll tell you what. Let's head this to the next block.
Yes.
There's this guy, there's all these different internet influencers, okay? And what's really interesting is I'm not like devouring all this stuff, but there's a guy by the name of, I think his name is Slick Steve, or Steve Slick. I have to look it up. I'll talk about this next break, here's a perfect example of why the Westplex should be the Westplex and why Franklin County should be Franklin County. And when you travel, and if you live in Washington, Missouri, or Arnold, Missouri, or Darden Prairie, Missouri, and when you travel and someone says to you, where are you from? Don't say St. Louis, say Darden Prairie or the Westplex or Franklin County, Missouri. And then they go, where's that? And well, it's west of the St. Louis metro area, but we have nothing to do with the city of St. Louis. That's what people need to be doing. You know what I mean? Because
I know exactly what you mean, Brad.
I'll give this example. And it's here. I tell you what. I'm gonna do a little research here. And by the way, I'm doing research on something else, which one of my friends contacted me over the weekend and told me something. You know, we talked about the Bill Eigel TV commercials. You'll never guess what TV station Bill Eigel is on. And if I gave you 20 guesses, if I said, John, pick a city where Bill Eigel is running his TV commercials, you would never guess what city they're running in. Okay, are you ready?
Well, you disqualify me on a technicality because he's up at the bar at McGurk's, and I would call it St. Paul, but it's really O'Fallon.
It's O'Fallon. St. Paul is further north up on Main Street there, or Highway M, whatever you want to look at it. Okay.